Ladies and gentlemen and fellow freedom fighters, this is Bushy Martin from Know How Property Finance and welcome back to the Get Invested podcast. Today we're going to enjoy a fantastic conversation with Stewart Mason on ultramarathoning, high achievement and living a successful life. In this really great conversation today, we find out how Dr. Stewart Mason adapted a US military philosophy and used it to live his exceptional life. Stewart's a practising veterinarian, he's a father of three, an ultramarathoner, a small business owner, and an absolute gym junkie because I see him there about 5 days out of 7. And he's someone who's taken a very proactive approach to designing a great life. In this really fascinating conversation, we follow Stewart's journey in both his professional and his personal life, touching on issues of fear and uncertainty. We also discuss frameworks for being happy and how to approach leaving a legacy. Stewart's a real ball of energy, and this show is sure to give you a real motivation boost. Here's just a sample of some of the really great topics that we dig into. The key qualities that make a good ultramarathoner and its parallels to everyday life, the acronym VUCA or VUCA and what it stands for, and it's a great code, really worth having a listen to. The 4 tenets of human happiness and success, and why fear is such a prevalent part of many people's lives. So if you're a time poor professional and you're looking for some answers, then I know you're going to get some fantastic value out of this sensational chat with Stewart. So sit back, grab out your pen and paper, take heaps of notes and enjoy. Let's get on with it. Before we get into it, if you're a time poor professional who's interested in investing but don't have the time, you don't have the expertise, you don't know where to start, and you don't know who to trust, then grab a copy of my book, The Freedom Formula, that gives you all of the know-how. You can check it out at www.bushymartin.com.au or email me at hello@khgroup.com.au. That's hello@khgroup.com.au and mention Get Invested for a special bonus. I might add that all of the proceeds of the book are going to Living It Rough and Doing It Tough, a really dedicated group and provide for the needs of the homeless and their pets. So please get involved. And now, I hope you enjoy this interview.
Everyone has some of those fears to some extent. Anyone who says they don't is lying or they're a total robot. But you know, the difference between, I guess, or one of the differences between the real people who have achieved more, the successful ones, and those who don't, are that they've embraced that fear.
Welcome to the Get Invested podcast, where we share great conversations with experts from all walks of life to uncover their secret know-how on where they invest their time, their skills and their money, and the benefits that this has created. You see, the truth is that everyone invests. Every minute of every day, we're investing our time, our skills, our energy and our money in something. Some of us are investing consciously, some unconsciously, sometimes for good, sometimes for bad, and sometimes for no impact. Get Invested will help you to start living by design, not by default. I'm going to help you to make it happen, not let it happen. You will hear the top tips on how you can live with conscious intent so that you can live more, work less, and leave a living legacy by investing now. Listen to the show to discover the top tips on how to get started, make the most of your investment journey, and ultimately to be living your dream, not someone else's. More episodes can be found on iTunes or at bushymartin.com.au/get invested. Thanks for listening, and now let's get invested. Right, we're here with Stewart Mason, and I've been fortunate enough to know Stewart almost casually without really knowing him at all for the last couple of years. We sort of rubbed shoulders at the local gym and had a bit of a coffee with Stewart recently, and he talked about some of his escapades in the ultra marathon front, and it really pricked up my ears because when we're talking about getting invested, the qualities that go with ultra marathon running are pretty parallel to success in an area of life. So welcome, Stu.
Thank you, Bushy. Pleased to be here.
Yeah, really good to have you here, mate. And I guess to get invested, where I'd really like to start so that people get a sense of who you are is to perhaps go back through your life journey and talk about what you invested your time, your money and your resources in early, and where that led you to, what you learned from it, what that made you change, and how that's led you to where you are today.
Okay, I'll start trying to dig those little grey cells into action. Memory never being my strong point. So how far back do you want me to go?
Well, probably back to the point where you made a conscious decision to go in a certain direction in your life. So for most people, it's probably end of high school. You've obviously made a decision to become a vet. What was you thinking at that time? Why did you want to become a vet?
Okay.
Let's start there.
Yeah, I suppose I've always relished a challenge and wanted to sort of go at the high end of things, and I learned that veterinary medicine was something that was going to challenge me a lot with the career requirements and the grades that were necessary to get it, which were pretty high in the UK.
Okay. So you'd classify yourself as a high achiever? You were right from the get-go, you were pretty much focused on that?
Yeah, I don't like to blow my own trumpet or inflate myself, but I'd say I've got the high achiever mindset. I certainly haven't achieved everything I want to achieve. I'll make that quite clear. But yeah,
which is pretty normal of the high achiever, by the way.
Oh, good. I'm on the right track then. But yeah, I think being a veterinary medicine, that was coupled with an interest in nature, medicine, biology. I was led to believe by people's lamentations and complaints about veterinary fees that it would give me a high income. That was probably the one bit of advice that the vets I spoke to weren't bullshitting about. Was when they said, no, it's not a high-paying job. So yeah, it was sort of coupled with I liked diversity in life as well. So yeah, it was quite a clear thing I'd have to put a lot of time and effort into. I don't have an eidetic memory. I'd have to study hard and remember and study again, and throw enough shit at the wall until some of it stuck.
Was there a love of animals that
absolutely, yeah.
Because it could have become a doctor, I guess. It's got similar skill base.
Exactly, yeah.
Why did you go down the veterinary road rather than the?
It was probably a fair 50-50 mix, part love of animals and part it was seen a greater challenge than going into human medicine, because you had to study a lot more comparative anatomy of different species and different physiology things, and it would get you doing, you could have to be a surgeon and an endocrinologist and an obstetrician or whatever.
Okay.
It had higher grade requirements, so it was more selective, and being the stupid, arrogant youngster I was, that appealed to me at the time.
Not unusual there either.
So yeah, it was like a challenge, let's go for it. Study hard, and throughout my childhood, my parents, they did a good job of trying to instill discipline, that you put the effort in to get the results. Nothing wrong with that. They were very good at not being overly pushy and demanding, but pointed out and made me feel a sense of shame when I got a bad school report, which I did quite frequently for my first few years of school.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I don't know why I suddenly managed to change, but knuckled down when I was 10 or 11 years old and started moving up the rankings, because you're actually given positions of where you finished in school academically.
Yeah, okay. That's how they did it in the UK?
Which, not anymore, and probably very rarely even then. And I don't think that's something I agree with at all, but it served me, but I don't think it's a good thing for kids generally.
Yeah. It creates a whole world of expectation, I guess, that can have good and bad results.
Exactly, expectation. So when it was put on me, I would take the bit and go for it. But for another I'd say for the majority of people, it's more it detracts more. It's counterproductive. I could be wrong, but
but it worked for you, obviously.
It worked for me.
You were pretty self-motivated. You didn't feel the pressure from your parents. It was something that you wanted to do, or can you remember that?
To do. I didn't want to disappoint my parents, and I also felt you know, you're not going to get anything in life for free, and I hate the thought of relying on charity and relying on you know, other beneficiaries all your life. You know, I had good, hard-working, productive parents that did provide for me very well, and I acknowledge that. But you know, I wanted to make my own way in life and have some. I guess there's an underlying feeling of self-worth in all of that. That you know, you've done your best, you've put the effort in, and you've got results that you've worked hard for. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Now, for those of you hearing barking in the background, we're here at the homestead at Clarendon, so we've got 4 dogs, and they often like to have their say in things. So
they're not my dogs.
Try and ignore that as you're listening to us. But yeah, okay. So once you've finished how long's the veterinary degree?
The veterinary degree in the UK is actually 5 years long.
5 years. Okay.
So it was on a similar sort of program to the medical degrees and dentistry degrees of doing 2 years pre-clinical and 3 years clinical. So it's a 5-year degree course.
Yeah.
And I was less, grew up a bit by then, I was less competitive about the academia, and you know, I'd be surrounded by a lot of kids that were much smarter than I was, and it was a case of just I wanted to get through it and get my qualifications.
Yeah.
But it was a demanding degree course, so you know, you'd be there studying while other students are out on the piss, and and you know, the attendance rate for lectures in the veterinary degree was very good. You know, most students would be there most of the time and studying hard afterwards.
Yeah.
Actually, I was there 6 years because there was an option of having a year out to do another intercalated degree. So I got a Bachelor of Science in Neuroscience as well.
Right.
Which sounds all academic. It sounds like I'm again trying to be a high achiever, but that, in all honesty, was trying to have a break from the vet course and chase women for a year because I grew up in an all-boys school. So
a bit of catch-up time.
Yeah, a bit of catch-up time, exactly.
Awesome. So doing that degree then, that's pretty intense. Did that start to hone your self-reliance and, I guess, work on the fact that it was all up to you?
I think, university, I was smart enough to realise that it's just that natural progression in life. You're working towards becoming independent, to becoming self-reliant. So it's wasn't the best. It would have been good to have other life skills and training around it, I think. And one thing, if I could get into that point in my life, one point where I really want to help other people, I'd almost go back to uni students. Okay. And I'd like to talk to some of them and encourage them to develop other life skills. If you're doing veterinary medicine, you are studying to become a clinician. So you're taught medicine, you're taught surgery, and all the backup studies of anatomy, pharmacology, physiology that goes with it. And
sure.
And that's what the university needs to do, and that's their job, and they've got limited funding, and you're going to be a pretty crap vet if you don't have those skills. But but there is a lot more to success in life of being interdependent with people in other backgrounds. Really understanding your clients, the whole art of listening to them and trying to understand their point of view, to really learn to empathize with someone, which is such an important life skill, but it's not something you're taught on a medical degree, or I wasn't, or not, apart from 1 or 2 little fun exercise lectures in it.
So that's something that you've had to develop yourself pretty much, I guess. And you're right. I think the older I get, the more I realise that everything's about relationships, and being able to empathise, listen, and understand where they're coming from. Because if you're focusing on the animal, and yet the animal's a pet of some others who might have a completely different view to you, being able to understand where they're coming from, and then you probably spend as much time being a doctor to the owners of the pet than the pet themselves, I'm guessing.
Yeah. I was thinking, it was you're just focusing in a very, very narrow field. I mean, broad in the term of the studies required, you've got to focus in so many areas of medicine and surgery as a veterinarian. But whatever you're doing, whatever trade you learn, whatever profession, whatever occupation you're geared towards, it's very easy to focus your whole life or all your studying and training, all your self-improvement on that. And then, like me, one day in your 30s, you wake up and realise you spent a lot of time learning an awful lot about very little.
But a necessary step, though.
Yeah.
You need the knowledge. I think what I'm hearing is that you've been smart enough to have the awareness to look at the fact that that's not the be-all and the end-all.
Yeah, well, you work on yourself in certain areas and get very good at it, but you need to get into that spirit. I think getting into the spirit of giving and giving back is very important, but it's actually learning into dependency. And God, if I don't know what people think about these business courses or self-help books or Tony Robbins and all the TED Talks, whatever. But if there's one book everyone should read, if you listen to this podcast and you've not read it, I would say make sure you read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
Yeah, it's a classic, isn't it?
I was talking about learning to listen to people. Like the hardest habit for him and for me, I think, was seek first to understand and then to be understood.
Yep.
There's a whole investing in yourself is a big thing, and trying to learn to work effectively with other people is so important. And once I got to be a veterinarian, I got out of vet school, and I knew that there's always further studying, and I knew I always had to improve myself. And that's probably one strength I've got. I don't know, it's good to be a hater, to hate on things, but one thing I hate, and I really can't stand, is complacency.
Right.
I can't stand looking at someone who thinks they know it all.
Scary, isn't it?
Yeah, and you've always got to try. You've got to make an actual conscious effort to improve, not just let it all come to you. And so, when I hear of all the experienced vet, and nothing wrong with experience, it's good. But it's also the only way that stupid people learn something. And
it's good. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way, but and I'd probably take it for granted as well. I'm a lifetime learner. I never ever think that I've learned everything about a subject, because the minute you think you have, then something comes at you that it's like, well, I didn't think of that, and that's an attitudinal thing. So if you've got that open learning concept, then you've always got 2 ears open, and the old analogy of 2 ears and 1 mouth, and that's the portion that you should be absorbing and communicating information, is probably something that quite a few people don't ever get, because I know myself, when I finished uni, I thought I knew everything about architecture. I knew enough to be dangerous. Seriously, it was scary when I got thrown into the real world and started to get my hands dirty. It was and it was a big wake up call. It was like, holy hell, I've only just scratched the surface in terms of what I need to be able to do to be able to really put something together. Yeah. But there's a lot of people who don't even get that far, because they don't have the self-awareness to step back and say, well, hold on, there's a lot more to this.
Yeah. It's just not always, you come out of vet school and you go to a clinic, and it's sort of disheartening. It doesn't do a lot for your ego, your feeling of self-worth, when you see like all the clients, they want to see your boss, and they don't want to see me or speak to me. So
yeah, right. You felt that a fair bit early on?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so, I worked hard on myself to be a good surgeon. I always admired great surgeries, and I didn't have the best bedside manner. I always say it was atrocious, although I have met worse. So you work hard on that and becoming very proficient in your surgery. And if there's ever that sort of state where you can become the rock star in your practice, you get to that point, but then it's not giving you everything you want, and it's gone the other way, that clients are always wanting to see you, and you're thinking, piss off and see that vet. They're just as good as me. There's nothing I can do that person can't.
How long did that journey take to go from feeling that you were the understudy to, hold on, everyone wants to see me now?
I think it was probably quite a quick snap change up once the point you bought a clinic and you're the boss.
Right.
And the clients seem to know that pretty quickly, and my wife and myself were the only vets there, and we had a business partner. So
yep.
Yeah, they just don't want to. Your clients aren't trusting a locum, or
why is that? Do you think?
I think they like familiarity, or they have this trust in me that I've been there longer. I'm going to care more, and I've worked with their pet longer, but.
So is that their preconceived ideas before they met you? Because it's something that I think about a lot, of that is this trust and care equation, because I think in any business, regardless of what you're doing, until you've got trust and until you can genuinely show you care, people don't believe what you say anyway. And is that so you think people are coming in, well, you're the owner of the business, so you must care, so I must trust you more? Or I
suppose you're motivated to really pander to the clients and work on your bedside manner and service them as best as you possibly can, and work on the whole art of veterinary medicine, whereas employee vets, associate vets who are on a fixed salary, they know they're very predictable, that their life is quite predictable like that. They know what they're going to be paid.
Yep.
They're motivated to do what they studied to do, and as a boss, there's other factors.
Yep.
So you do work on that independency with other people.
Sure. Okay.
But
so how long did it take you from, so you finished veterinary school, you became a locum in a practice somewhere? How long between there and opening your own practice?
So I graduated in 2000, worked in the UK for about 3 years, moved over here in 2003, and was an associate veterinarian over here. Did a little bit of work in the emergency centre. It was a bit different again, but that's only about a year. So it was 2008 we bought into a clinic. So it was it took 8 years to get to that point.
It's pretty quick.
Probably,
it's pretty quick.
Probably, I don't know if that's average or not for vets between graduation and getting into practice now, to owning a practice. But that was the journey that I took with my wife.
And where did you meet your wife? Back in the UK, or?
She was. We're talking earlier, weren't we? How I told you how I took a year out to do neuroscience. So when you take a year out of vet school and you come back, you got to join the year coming up below you, and she was in my seat in lectures one day. So
and the rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history, pretty much. So
yeah, awesome. Okay, well, let's dig into that a bit, because living and working with your wife, Philippa, is it Pip or Pip?
Philippa.
Yeah, Philippa.
Pip, whatever you call.
Must come with its own challenges in terms of if you're both investing in the business. Quite often that can create challenges for the relationship and the delineation between personal and business. How have you worked through the challenges there?
The day-to-day challenges, I think we work together very well because we're able to empathise with each other. We're both at heart very clinical people, so in terms of sharing case responsibility, making medical decisions, I think we work together very well. We try and share the duties with. There's not much one of us can do that the other one can't.
Yep.
I mean, I've got probably more of a interest in orthopedics, so and other surgeries. So if there's any nasty surgeries, I'll take them on. I think, and then, I mean, Philippa's good with certain other areas like neurological cases and things. She's certainly more gifted in dealing with clients than I am.
Okay.
So I think she finds that far less challenging to take on the more difficult, demanding clients than I do.
Right.
She won't admit that, but
but it just tends to happen that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the typical husband-wife thing. Maybe, you can deal with that. No, you deal with it. No, you deal with it.
Yeah.
But we won't get into a feud over it.
No. Do you have sort of within the broader spectrum of the leadership and the management of the practice? Because you've obviously got a team. How many is in the team?
There's myself and my wife as business owners, and veterinarians. We've then got 5 people working for us.
Okay. That's a pretty good team. So the general leadership and management roles, do you divide that up between you, or do you just, is it sort of, how does that operate have you got sort of, well, I'll handle this and you handle that, or is it just something that you collaboratively do, or how does that
We do collaborate on it a lot. I suppose when we get home at night, it's a very draining profession, and the last thing one of us wants to do is really talk about work.
Yeah.
I think, Philippa she's not into the whole running a business, managing a business thing.
She's a vet to be a vet.
Yeah, both of us have made the mistake of thinking that running a business is just a veterinary business is a natural progression from being a veterinarian working in the business. Probably a bit like, actually let's say a lot like in that book, The E-Myth Revisited, where Michael Gerber's talking about someone will be in a job, and because they know that trade or that profession it's a natural progression to then just own that business and run that sort of business. And you don't end up owning a job, and the worst job in the world because you're working for a lunatic,
which happens to be yourself.
I've done that one.
I was going to ask you about that.
You can read through that, all those mistakes that he talks about in the book. Yeah, I've done that, and I've done that, and I've done that, done that. I'm very good at ticking these boxes off, aren't I?
I was going to dig in a bit too. What was it that yourself and Philippa made the decision to invest in your own business? What was it? Just look, I'm sick of working for a dickhead, I might as well work for myself, or was there more to it than that in terms of why you decided to make that investment?
I was a lot luckier in terms of employers than Philippa, so I can't say for Philippa, although we were working for the same boss towards actually ending up buying him out.
Okay.
But in the early years, I've always had good supportive employers. That's something I'm very grateful for, and guys that I've learned a lot from. So for myself, it was it was part having something to retire on, and hopefully have a bigger income, and then actually have an asset to sell. So you've got a business.
Veterinary clinics normally quite saleable. If you pull yourself and Philippa out of it, what are they buying?
If there is a goodwill asset to it, and I've heard from knowledgeable source, not that they can be infallible, but that for every you increase the goodwill for 50 cents for every dollar of turnover that you increase the business by. So there is that. We ended up buying the building that the clinic's in.
Okay.
Still more. So that's another
good asset.
investment. Yeah.
Yep.
So there's part of it that you're not going to just leave as an employee and have nothing in 40 years time or whatever. And that would have certainly applied to both of us. And yeah, you have more autonomy in the time you take off or what sort of clinic you want to be running, I guess. You know, it's good to have some control. But underestimated how time poor you'd feel at the times.
Yeah, I could well imagine. The reason that we're talking now is the fact that we've bumped into each other at the Paragon gym, and that's probably because you've got a little bit of that flexibility in owning your own business to be able to fit that big rock in. Let's delve into that a little bit, because this is the subject that I'm really keen to have a chat to you about, and which is the ultra marathons that you've spent your time in.
Yeah.
What led you to that? When did you do your first one, and what prompted you to do your first one? Can you talk to us a bit about it?
Oh yeah, I love talking about myself like that. So I've always been uncomfortable with being unfit or overweight and out of shape, despite the amount of money I put into my beer belly. But I had let myself go. Once I'd got married, had a business, had kids, like many people, I think, in their 30s. And it just, that wasn't right for me. So got up one morning and went for a run.
How long ago was this, mate?
April 2011.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's, years.
And just kept, felt good, even though I was out there in my dacky shorts and cottons and so just felt you got to keep doing it, Stuart. You got to make habits out of these things. So just kept going running.
So it's a bit daily thing.
Made it pretty much a daily thing. It was going sweet. Did the City to Bay that year, and then it dawned on me that we've been going to visit family back in the UK, because that's where all of them are every couple of years. But we've been going at Christmas, and I learned from this book that the Paris Marathon was easier to get into than the London Marathon, which I did run the London Marathon as a student way back when, actually. Yeah, right. But I'd let myself go a bit since then. But I thought, Phipps, could we go over to the UK in April instead of Christmas time when it's freezing? I mean, it's nice to have Christmas with your family, but it's freezing bloody cold. Everything's shut. There's ice everywhere. Yep. And thankfully, Philippa was very obliging, because we can have a weekend in Paris. So did the Paris Marathon in 2012. And I was kind of in the habit of doing running.
Gotcha. So by this stage, you build up some momentum. I mean, your version of letting yourself go and the average person's are probably two different things. I'm guessing, though. You're probably pretty hard on yourself, are you?
Before photos, afters, if you like. You might be surprised.
How much? I'm just trying to put my head around this. How much sort of weight did you drop?
I reckon I probably topped the scales when I was out of shape, but just over 100 kilos.
Oh wow! Okay.
And I'm probably about 82 kilos now.
Wow! Wow! And you're about 6 foot what?
6'3".
Yeah, 6'3".
Yeah.
So that is a pretty massive drop, and that happened over a 12-month period-ish?
Probably actually maybe the first 6 months I lost a lot of weight. I went down to probably around about 85, 86-ish and would hover around there. Yep. I got pneumonia and went down to about 82, but I don't recommend doing that to someone.
Not a Jenny Craig technique,
not a good weight loss technique, no.
Wow. Okay, so that's pretty massive. So the marathon things, I'm always interested in marathons, and I want to go on a bit of a journey here, because I don't think I did a bit of reading on the ultramarathon exercise and the blog that you wrote. The grand to grand exercise that you did, and I did a bit of other Google searching around it. They are just mind blowing in terms of from someone like me, and I love sport and I love keeping fit, but the concept of running that sort of different distance for 7 days. Let's talk So that people understand what an ultramarathon is, can you just talk through what it is and talk about the preparation and what you go through during the period that you're doing it, just so that people can really understand how confronting this whole thing is?
Yeah, sure. So it's actually a bit of a loose term, ultramarathon, because if you go anything below that,
well, yeah, what is technically?
Yeah, because a marathon is 42.2 k's. It's got a specific distance, and so obviously a half marathon is 21.1. Anything else, 10 k's is 10 k's, whatever.
Gotcha.
When you go to ultramarathon, all that means is anything longer than marathon distance. So it's probably a bit cheeky to call a 43k race an ultramarathon, but effectively might as well say any race over 50 k's, if you like, is ultramarathon. So it could be a single day 50k race, or it could be one like the Grand to Grand that's 273 k's, but it's split over 6 days.
Yeah, this is just again for people to understand. This isn't 270 k's over 7 days running along a flat track. This is describe it, because it blew my mind when I started to read some of the terrain that you were trying to
the
encompass.
beauty of these, especially these multi-stages, so they split them over usually 6 or 7 days. There's some that are a bit shorter and maybe a few a bit longer, where you run a fixed course each day and then you have to stop. You're not allowed to start till the next day. Some of them are supported, so you'll certainly have to carry the snacks you're going to need for that run and the water that gets you to the next aid station, and whatever emergency or gear you're going to need, whether that's thermals, head torch, etc.
So carrying a full pack on your back pretty much.
Yeah, but it's a lot lighter if it's a supported one, because they'll carry another bag of food for it. So you've got to supply your food and other like clothing you might not need. So that's carried for you on a supported. On a self-supported, like the Grand to Grand was, and I'm doing self-supported in one in New Zealand next year, you've got to carry everything you're going to use for that week, with the exception of the tent that you sleep in and the water that they supply you en route. So obviously you can't carry a week's water on your back, but
so sleeping bag and everything else.
Yeah,
sleeping the tent. Yeah.
Sleeping bag, sleeping mat. A mirror. Food will be about half the weight you're carrying will be your food. So it does get significantly lighter as you go along.
Yeah, okay. But still, you're running from. I'm not sure how many you've run, but just reading the Grand to Grand, you're running for how many hours a day?
For myself, I can't remember my specific times, because I think I was about 38 hours for the entire thing accumulatively. Most days were sort of marathonish distance, so it would be about, maybe for me, 5.5 hours a day.
Yep.
A few of them, like the one I've done, and the Marathon des Sables in Morocco, and a lot of these multi-stages, they have a long stage, which tends to be a double marathon, so that's 84.4 k's approximately.
This is to sort the sheep from the goat sort of thing, is it? To really...
It's just one thing they sort of do to, I guess, break the race up, make it more interesting, bit of a challenge, throw a long day in there, and there's usually like another shorter day or two in there as well. So the long stage in the Grand to Grand, it had a 35-hour cut-off.
Wow.
And full credit to those that were at the back of the pack and actually stuck out there, and they just hung in there and got in just before cut-off time, because I would have been ripping my hair out challenging myself and facing the course that long.
Yep.
But I think I didn't finish that one until 1 in the morning, so that was about 15 hours of slogging that, because it's a tough course.
And this is not, as I say, this is hard yards. This is uphill, down.
There's a lot of climbs,
sand, cactus. There's all. I mean, this is.
Yeah, the first day was sort of flat. So check me out. I can run. Look at this. Then made the mistake I made numerous times before of going off too fast and paid for it the next day. But it's quite an odd race like that, the Grand to Grand, because the first day is very flat, and then the subsequent days afterwards are these
Almost mountain climbing.
Really huge hills in the way.
Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, you're.
So how do you? Because I think the qualities that you need to be able to get through something like that. Can you talk about that? Because there's only a special sort of person that would be able to endure that sort of physical and mental.
I think I'm probably more like most people. I've met a couple of people that have gone and done these multi-stage ultras straight up without having run marathon distance before, whereas to me it was a progression. I guess I was inspired by sort of seeing that these races were there and it would be a challenge for yourself to do it. And I thought, well, it's going to take you to some far-flung place you've not been before. I love travel as well and seeing new places. And with these really long ultras, they always put them in a spectacular part of the world.
Yeah, of course. That's big.
They're not. Yeah. You're not going to be sort of running around Elizabeth Shopping Centre or something. So, you're going somewhere unique, and. Initially, there must have just been the surprise. I knew I'd be surprised by something, whether it was the people, the landscape, or what it would do, to my body, how my body would respond to it. I was kind of initially, also the Marathon des Sables was that's the most publicised one. It's the most well-known ultra marathon that's in Morocco. I've not done it. I'd like to, but I've not done that one.
So that's on the list, obviously.
It's one of those ones I'd happily do it, but there's so many others that really grab my attention that are straight onto the bucket list. So
okay, what's coming up?
Well, I've got one, actually a slightly different one. It's a single stage one coming up round Lake Tahoe, so I'm doing that in just under 3 weeks, hopefully, which is 330 k's. But it's a single stage. But again, I mean if you go on the website,
single stage, so that's continuous running.
Yeah, so that you've got 100 hours to do it in. Simple as that. I've got one in New Zealand coming up because there's a chap called Michael Sandry I met on the Grand to Grand, and very flatteringly after we got back from that, was asking my opinions on what I thought of a race in New Zealand, and hoping it's not someone with another pipe dream, but full credit, he had this vision of a race, of putting one together in New Zealand to showcase off his part of the world where he lives, and he's very proud of. Yeah. And it looks, he's done his homework, and it looks shaping up to be a fantastic race.
North Island or South Island? South Island,
yeah.
Nice.
It's known as, it's called the Alps to Ocean Ultra, so going from the foothills of Mount Cook to to Oamaru on the eastern shore of the South Island. So
let's come back to those core qualities that you believe are the keys that allow you to get through something like this. What are they, do you think?
Well, when you go on these races, what's brought me back, one of the big draw cards is spending time with some of the most amazing, inspirational people, really, really positive mindset. And if it's, what is it that makes them achieve that? And probably for myself, what will make me do it? In one word, I think it's acceptance.
Okay. Because elaborate a bit on that. What do you mean by that?
If you're going to do an ultra marathon like that, in your training, shit is going to happen. You're going to be running out in shitty rain. You're probably going to get injured. You're going to have really bad days of running. So you know that it's going to be tough at times. And a bit like that Brené Brown did a talk on embracing vulnerability, a really good TED talk. You've got to do that to do this. You just you're embracing the fact that bad stuff's going to happen, and you're not going to like it, but you're okay with it. And I mean, now these decisions are very easy for me because the investment that I make is I know that it's gonna pay me back megafold. It's a very easy decision. The first time it's, oh God, do I want to do this? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do? Oh, this was the I was signing up for the Big Red Run in the Simpson Desert here in Australia.
Oh yeah.
And I wasn't sort of very manly. Oh yes, I'm gonna grab my testicles and do it. I just went, oh bugger it, yeah, click, do it. Click on enter. But then once you've clicked on it, it's very easy for that motivation, that drive, because you know you've signed up. You can't get out. You've clicked enter. You've got to do it. You can't pull out now. So
yep. So that's probably the hardest thing to do, is just hitting that button. And
you've actually got that goal there to do.
Yep.
But the people you're with, but the mindset has to be that that all sorts of things can go wrong. It's going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it in the end.
So it's more about the mind than the body, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and just that habit of the old cliche of, it's probably as cliche, I don't know, of stepping outside of your comfort zone. Like if you and I are in one of those RPM, which is spin, to those who aren't familiar with Les Mills in gyms, so these spin classes.
Yep.
Or similar.
Yep.
You hear the instructors say, step outside your comfort zone. We've all heard that, and they're right. That's true. That's in the very physical, stripped, raw sense.
Yep.
As you progress from that and do long ultra marathons, or you're then especially in business and other things, your professional life and all sorts, and parenting, whatever it is.
Yep.
There's all sorts of things that are going to go wrong, and you're not perfect, and you have to embrace this vulnerability that we all have, and be okay. Learn to accept it. So I think it's acceptance that's part of it.
Roll with the punches, and then
okay. And I think another course I went on, I was I think, what was his name? I think is it Patrick Hollingworth, but he discussed this thing called VUCA, like this VUCA landscape, or social landscape so I think it was a phrase, it was an acronym that was coined, I think, by the US military when the Soviet Union broke up and the Cold War came to an end, that in the Eastern Europe and perhaps in the Middle East as well, they were facing this VUCA, which stood for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity.
Love it.
And pretty much they were spot on.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas that's the whole.
So if you've got that mindset, then nothing's really going to throw you, is it?
That's the sort of life that you're going to be facing, and the comfort zone of any human being is the opposite of that. So instead of volatility, people want stability, and instead of uncertainty, people want certainty. Instead of complexity, people want simplicity, and then instead of ambiguity, people want clarity. And those, you have to learn to accept this VUCA concept that you're going to be facing.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, he liked
it's a great paradigm.
Yeah, this guy was a mountaineer, and he sort of talked us through climbing up some Himalayan peak as an exercise. Yep. So it's sort of, what do you do in a situation where you might have to rescue climbers from this thing called the death zone, which is above a certain altitude. If you go down and can't move, you're fucked. You're going to die.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And I think when you face an ultra marathon like that, there are so many things you can't predict that are out of your control. The way your body might respond, the weather conditions that you're going to be facing, how you're going to react to your food, and when you're training, how do you respond to eating this way, or training here, or training there?
Of course,
it's very, very hard compared to training for your first 10k, which is great, and kudos to that. And a 10k is still a challenge, but it's
this is taking
you've got more complexity as you're going into really long ultramarathon territory.
How many people sort of generally enrol in? I guess it varies, but what are we talking about for most of these?
The ones they certainly seem to vary. I think
Couple of hundred.
A popular one might have that many. Like the Marathon des Sables in the MDS. That I think that has over. I could be wrong. I think that one can have like 1,000 or over 1,000.
Wow.
The
how many don't? And the reason I ask that is how many don't make it? How many don't finish the run? It's a big dropout rate.
Yeah, again,
or what
I
do
think
they call it? Do not finish or whatever.
Yeah,
it's called.
DNF is the letters that every ultra athlete dreads, or every
DNF.
marathon. Yeah, DNF did not finish. Exactly that. Yeah, you see it after your name and you think, oh shit. So I think it was round about just over 20%. Was it that DNF'd and grand to grand? I can't remember. I think there were about 139 starters.
Yep. So how do you, if you're in the, let's say I'm just trying to paint a scenario here, but let's say you're doing this 300k run in 100 hours, and you're 80 hours in, and your body's gone into meltdown. And what keeps you going? What is it that gives you the strength to just keep putting one foot after the other? I just can imagine a lot of people just going, "No, I'm done. I'm out." How do you summon that persistence to just keep on keeping on?
I don't want to sort of brag. I guess to me, some of that just comes naturally in that one thing I'm good at is not quitting.
Yeah.
I make life hard for myself because I didn't stop and think and plan better. I wish I'd sacrifice some of my resilience for better planning almost. I think so. You're out. I'm trying to think when I've been in that situation. Yeah, you're out there.
Put yourself back there, and
you're feeling. I guess all I can say is partly other people have done it tougher than me.
Yeah.
There's always someone out there on the course that's a better person than I am.
Okay.
Not necessarily, and frequently not. I don't look at them because they're a better runner. I might look at. I draw inspiration for people further back in the pack than me. Like I said, there's people that've been out there for 33 hours. Oh, shit,
good grief.
And so I draw inspiration from people that have outclassed me in their own way.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I suppose is, it's all going to be over at some point. It's not going to last
just
forever.
Keep doing this, then okay. You're looking forward to you can see the finish line, so that's enough to keep you
exactly.
going. Is that
the
it?
whole thing with ultra marathons and doing this is, I can guarantee if you went and did one, or just about anyone listening to this podcast, if you went and did one, you'll get so much more out of it than you put in. And I was actually blown away with that with the first one I did, because I didn't know what to expect.
Of course.
It was kind of a leap of faith. I mean, I wanted to just have something I could tell the grandchildren about, something I could reflect on. And so I just went and thought, well, I've done a couple of marathons now. I've never been to the Simpson Desert. Seems a good way of seeing it. It's a new challenge. Other people have done it. So I can learn a whole lot from it. What is there to really lose?
Yeah. Okay.
And like you said, you've got to be you've got to be comfortable with the fact that you're not perfect, you're fallible. Yeah, things can go wrong and shit can happen, but that's just part of life. There's no such thing as failure. Failure is just a form of feedback. So without much to lose, I did that, and then when you realise that the rewards are so worth it, you'll bust a gut trying to do it.
It's a bit like having a child. When you're going through childbirth, you think, oh God, I can't do this. And the minute you've got the baby in your arms, right, when we're having our next one, is that sort of feeling?
I wasn't the one. I can't speak. Yeah, when you have a child, it is hard.
Euphoric?
Because
is it quite euphoric?
No one wants another child if they've got a 2-year-old and a little baby at home. But then when they they grow off of it and you realise it's worth it, we've ended up having a third one after that. And I suppose a big draw with doing the whole ultramarathon thing is, to put it very, very, very simply, is when you're investing in it and doing it right, because giving it your best, it yields happiness. Because people will look for happiness in a lot of different pleasures. So they'll try and find it in good food, in money, in sex, and whatever, and good wine. And there's nothing wrong with indulging in those things, at least part of the time, when if you're not hurting anyone else. But
the character strength that you
the four tenets of human happiness really come from a sense of progression, a sense of being in control, a sense of being something greater than you are, a sense of purpose, and the extent of your relationships with your friends and your family. Those are the four tenets of human happiness.
Brilliant.
And
spot on.
Going on some stupidly long jaunt out in the desert is really going to satisfy you in both of those areas. You form deep friendships with people that you hadn't met before. You develop in so many ways going out there. You learn to actually have control over your body and realize what it can do. You're learning to pace yourself. It's just you that's responsible for it, and it's a whole other world, full of the most wonderful people. Fantastic thing to be part of. When you're in the Facebook groups with those people, there's no nastiness. Everyone's loving it.
It's really supportive.
You never hear them talking disparagingly of another fellow runner. So,
I guess the sort of person who's going to be attracted to putting themselves to that sort of a challenge by nature is going to be a very positive person, because there's those that are the reverse of that will be very quick to point the finger at people and criticise them for what they're doing, but there'll be very few that are going to step up to the starting line and put themselves through that sort of a physical and mental challenge, which is pretty enormous, really.
It is.
So you're pretty much hooked now, I'm hearing. So you've done, how many have you done so far?
I've only done 2 multi-stage ultras. So the Big Red Run in the Simpson Desert, the Grand to Grand Ultra, which is between the Grand Canyon and Bryce Canyon in the United States. I'm still I'm really looking forward to going to Tahoe. I know it's going to fucking hurt. And the one in New Zealand is good. There's a whole load of others that are on the bucket list that I'd really like to do. The Atacama Crossing in Chile, and there's another one that looks fantastic, the Coastal Challenge in Costa Rica, which is
So is there a timeline on this, Stuart? Is there physically is this something you can keep doing for years and years to come, or is it?
I could go out in the deserts all year and just go running through them, or in the Himalayas or whatever. It's I suppose the other thing about I much prefer physical stress than mental stress. Sounds like a woman, don't I?
No, not at all.
They dealt with childbirth and stuff, and I can't stand. I've had anxiety and burnout and stuff, so I'll take all the strain of running an ultra over that any time. But in terms of the other thing with ultras is it's the long ultras is it sounds odd to call it the ultimate holiday, but then if you think about why do you go on a holiday, if you're in a demanding career or a demanding home situation where you've got a lot of kids, if you have to use your head a lot when you don't really want to be doing so, for some reason it's total relaxation. Like if you're doing a business plan for a year, the first thing you should do is plan out when you're going to have that holiday and where you're going to go. And it's a big trouble I have with a business or being a veterinarian. So being a clinician and a business owner is all day you have to make decisions. That might be how I treat a patient. It might be how I deal with one of my suppliers, how I manage my staff, how I talk to clients about. So all day you're doing it, and you get decision fatigue. Almost to the point, you get home at night and you can get and you could be asked to make another decision over something pathetically trivial, like what should we watch on television or what should we have for dinner tonight, and you just think, oh, can you make that decision for me? I don't know. And it builds up, and you really need to. It's like your head needs to be emptied.
So no better way to do it than on an ultramarathon.
Yeah, you get out there on an ultramarathon. It is total sheer mental bliss. It's kind of chasing a high, and I've seen discussions where
makes sense.
Been in discussions, where some people have come back and they've had withdrawal symptoms when they're back to the daily grind of life again. You're suffering quite badly for it.
I can well imagine, because you're back into the same old, and it's like, just take me back there. It's because it'd be so all-consuming, the ultramarathon, that there'd be no room for anything else, which in its own sense is a very cleansing and relaxing way to restore and re-energize.
You strip away all of life's some of the luxuries or what we take for granted, whether it's a solid roof over your head and not a tent, and just the whole idea of putting makeup on and the drive that people have to do. All day people are focusing on normally at home, of what sort of car they're going to drive and shop for this, shop for that. And if you strip everything away, you're totally digitally detoxed. You're not even putting deodorant on. No one
really cares.
No one.
It doesn't matter, does it?
You just got each other's company.
Brilliant.
And you see everyone's character, not their personality.
Yes, as they are, not as they try and portray it. Yeah, that's good call.
So many rewards from it, but it's a very easy thing to invest your time, your physical.
I can see it.
Yeah,
I can see it. It's always intrigued me. I'm by nature very competitive, and I've never really looked at the ultramarathon exercise as something that would interest me. But listening to you now, it's like, I actually sort of get this.
Oh yeah, first time I was sort of, shall I, shan't I? Now I can be on the computer and you see your friends on Facebook in various parts of the world doing them, and you're like a little kid looking at a water slide. I want to go on that.
Awesome, fantastic, mate. Well. Moving forward then, so would you say you're pretty much living your ideal lifestyle now? If you look at yourself and Philippa and the kids.
Heavens, no.
No? What's the difference between how you're living it and how you'd ideally like to?
I'd like the business that I run to be, I guess, I'll be honest, it needs to make more profit than it's making. Go that cycle of you do this and the accountant makes your figures look good, and then you have all this tax to pay on this profit that where the
you didn't see it
gone there. I think it was, I'd know about it if it was down the couch. So and also I want to leverage myself out of the daily grind of the bit. Like I said, before, it's you become what you focus. So you think ahead, and I'll think about myself getting around that ultramarathon and getting high up in the placings and cross the finish line. I worked on becoming a really good surgeon, and I got proficient at it, and that's okay. But then you work on being that great vet that all the clients want to see. Dr. Popular, Dr. Rockstar, or whatever, and then I've realised I don't want that at all. I want to, really leverage my time out of it. It's a very, very stressful profession.
Could well imagine.
And I've made all the same mistakes that I think the vast majority of my peers have made, trying to sort of go, they think they can run a business because they can, be a doctor. So they've got to have the brain to run a business, but it doesn't work like that.
So you see yourself. So time is probably the thing that you want to try and get more
and
back.
Yeah, I just don't. It's not giving. The time and I wouldn't say it's giving the financial rewards as well. I've been there before, sleeping, having trouble sleeping. Shit, how am I going to pay the BAS next month? And you've got to. Well, I'm saying to myself, no, I've worked hard and I'm better than this, and I shouldn't have to be stressing over this. Not that life should be without toil and stress. And
of course. So what are you going to invest in differently to what you've done to date to allow you to get that time and freedom back, do you think?
I think, like we were discussing before, I need to work on myself first, of having very clear objectives, and work with my wife as a team, because she's very much into horses, which is a very different path. So say to move into a larger property where she can keep horses, that's fine. That's something we'll have to work towards. Because I don't mind whether we're on a large property or not, from a purely personal point of view, but because
because that's important to her.
I understand how important running out there and stuff is to me. And when you're in a marriage and anyone you love, you've got to make what's important to them as important, as important to yourself.
Totally, yeah.
So it's putting heads together. Investing in people in the.
So it means replacing yourself in the business to some degree, so that the business is not so reliant on you. Is that part of it as well?
I think to leverage myself or what I do onto as many other people that can probably do it a whole lot better than me anyway is a big part of that.
Not many professionals are able to make that leap, because we've invested so much energy in becoming good at what we do that we find it hard to let go and often think, well, that person's not going to be as good as me. Is that something that you think you'll be able to overcome when you introduce other people into the business to start letting some of that go?
I need to have a good look into myself and I think reflect again. I've done it before, but it's probably time for another review. If there's two things that stop you progressing when you want it, one is, like we were talking before, lack of failing to implement. Like, you go and get these ideas and you from some course or whatever, and then you fail to implement them afterwards. And then the other thing is fear, because
is it a trust issue as well, though? Is it because I find, and I've suffered from this myself, that I don't trust anyone enough to do things in anything as well as I can, so I try to do everything myself.
I think that holds a lot of people back, because I think what you're looking at there perhaps is a fear of a loss of control. And many people have that. I don't think that's a personal fear for me as much.
Yeah, that's good.
I have others. Sometimes if it's taking on more help when you need it, it's that fear of scarcity, and fear of scarcity is probably a big one for me. Because there's different fears. I think 10 that I learned on a course that might hold you back in life. So you might have a fear of failure, which is a bit stupid, because there's no such thing as failure. It's just a form of feedback. But people fear success. You can have a fear of rejection. You can have a fear of not being clever enough or not good enough to do something. You can have a fear of scarcity. You can have a fear of a loss of control. You can have a fear of doing things differently, a fear of change. you have a fear of just being seen to be different by everyone, like if you're a rocker and you're embarrassed. A fear of illness or ill health is another one that you can hold people back, and then a fear of leading an ordinary, unproductive life. So sort of 10 fears that I was taught that can hold you back in business or in many life's ventures.
Yeah.
And everyone has some of those fears to some extent. Anyone who says they don't is lying, or they're a total robot.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But the difference between, I guess, or one of the differences between the real people who have achieved more, the successful ones, and those who don't, are that they've embraced that fear. And it's got to be that thing of looking at a fear. Does it serve you or not? It might do, but usually it's not. And it's understandable why the amygdala is such a powerful part of the brain, why fear is so powerful, because for millions and millions and millions and millions of years of evolution,
hasn't it? Yeah,
animals need to be afraid of being eaten or being left out in the cold or not passing their genes on or whatever.
Yeah.
But most of the time in what we're doing day to day, those fears are not serving us, they're holding us back. So it pays to sort of stop think, is it serving me? A little bit like, if you are training for that ultra marathon, or if you're just trying to get fit and you're in that gym, you might be, you've not had much sleep the night before, it's cold outside, you're in a nice warm bed, and you feel the discomfort of getting out. Once you've done that work, once you're in the workout, it's not so bad, and no one ever after they've done a workout regrets it. Everyone's glad that you've done it, and you have to look. Well, one way is to confront the fear, is to look at that and say, it was worth it. This is why I need to do it again.
Just feel the fear and do it anyway type routine.
You can't look at an ultra marathoner or any fitness freak or someone who's successful in business or whatever and say, they must just not have a sense of fear. They don't get uncomfortable. They do. They feel exactly the same discomfort that you do for many issues. But
they just push through it.
They found some way of dealing with it and pushing through it. And it's easier said than done. Otherwise, everyone would be doing it all the time. But
yeah, I agree with you. Going to the gym for me, mentally I go, right, I have 3 meals a day, and I do something physical every day. That's just so it's not negotiable for me. It's I don't care whether it's rain, hail, wind, or something. Unless I'm sick or unhealthy, I just do it.
Yeah.
And because I know that if I keep doing it and it becomes a daily discipline, then the benefits in all sorts of the way you've very well elaborated, from mental to physical to your confidence, to everything flows from it just by physically breaking through the comfort layer and going, well, I'm just going to do it. Yeah. So that's awesome, mate. You've touched on this a couple of times during the chat around legacy, and I just want to turn to that a little bit in the context of, have you thought about what legacy you want to leave for your journey on this planet, and what are you going to invest in? What have you invested in? What will you invest in that's going to help you to leave that legacy?
Oh gosh, now you've really put me on the spot. I suppose it's an important thing to address. I'll give you that, and I suppose when it comes to leaving a legacy, in terms of what it means to me, I've tried to, I've found having an ego is one of the worst things you can have. So it's not so much what are people going to think of me when I'm dead or when I'm gone. Yeah. Having said that, I think, like it's pointed out in that Stephen Covey book, that when he talks about the second habit of beginning with the end in mind, a good way of doing it is to picture your own funeral and what people will
Yeah.
say about you, and I
Yeah.
think that's good.
Yeah, it's a good way to do it.
I suppose a lot of what I'm leaving behind is something I need to think of further down the track once I've got my business and stuff where I want that to be.
Yeah.
Once I'm giving myself the lifestyle I want, or I'm closer to that, then you always need to think ahead. Like if I've entered a race, I've already long been thinking of the race after it or the one after that.
Yeah.
So it's something that will be on my mind. The main thing is leaving something for my kids. You know, that's so to leave them as
And what
as much as possible.
what are the things that you'd like to leave them with? What is it that qualities or you name it that you think are important for them to take from your contribution?
So I think I'd like the main thing, I suppose, for my children. I want to make sure that there's some safety blanket that they can always fall back. If they start out and times are hard, then there's something I can help them out with to help them find the career path that suits them. Another thing with my children, though, it's really to leave them with the mindset for, like we're talking about, the sort of approaching a VUCA world.
Yes.
It's you're not always taught that.
We've gone through a generation that hasn't had any hard times or adversity, really.
Yeah.
And so being able to impart VUCA, is that how you pronounce
it?
As a way to look at life would be like gold.
Yeah, I think I'd get them to read or learn the principles of books like The 7 Habits, or I think
what
like
what else do you think? What other books have really had an impact on your thinking?
I think The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People was
that's a major one.
Good one.
Yep. If you were to, looking back on the journey so far, if you were to give some advice to your kids or to other people on their journey, what would you suggest they invest their time, their money and their energy into enjoy life to the full?
I think really that whole thing, like I said, with ultra runners, is to start acceptance. Embrace that vulnerability in life and learn to do that. Remember, always have it in the back of your mind that you're not perfect. Your children will not be perfect. And to really when you face life's challenges, you can't bullshit your way out of them. So you can't make the uncertain certain. Like we said, uncertainty is part of VUCA, and you'll see it with religious fanatics. They want to be certain that there's a God. You're not.
No one is.
Just accept that. Or if if you're reading, I suppose part of trying to be a better runner and stuff. An amazing thing I got from my first one also was I modified my diet. I learned about healthy eating. And again, getting back to that, you'll see how people want to be certain that this food is good for you, and because it's what they want. They want to enjoy their steak, or that the cheese is harmless to go having great.
So it comes to this
cheese.
Self-justification.
The truth. Respect science, I suppose, is another thing I'd say is. And when I say respect science, is respect the truth. If there is clear evidence for something to be true, it's true, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, agree.
yeah, learn to accept the world as it is, and be, I don't like the phrase comfortable with the uncomfortable. I mean, you're
everyone
uncomfortable.
says it, but
Accept that you're that you're going to be unhappy with this or with that, and but most of the time it's just thoughts in your head, and there's ways around that. So I think one thing I want to impart on my children would be to accept that it is really not an ideal world, and you are going to face shit and be uncomfortable, but just to learn in the best way you can to accept it, and by all means try and find ways of educating. It's not easy, otherwise we'd all be doing it.
Yeah.
I think, and the other thing is, getting into that sense of giving.
Yes.
Because when you try and help other people out, the law of reciprocity will pay you back so much
Totally
more.
agree. Totally agree.
In ways that will blow your mind, in ways you don't expect. And probably I think Covey hinted on that in his book, that a small gesture on your part can mean so much to someone else, and you didn't even realise it. And
Exactly.
I got a good taste of that on Grand to Grand. I don't want to brag. No, I love to brag. No. No, in the awards ceremony afterwards, I got given this award that I totally did not deserve. But it was it was a director's choice for the biggest contribution by a competitor.
Okay.
I didn't do anything. That's the thing. I didn't really deserve the award.
But you probably didn't think you did, but because you're pretty humble.
It's it was just all I was really doing was, after the race, finishing ahead of most of the pack. I'd stand there, congratulate everyone as they finished each stage, patted them on the back, shook their hand, hugged them, or whatever. And in some cases where some of them were struggling, especially at the end of the long stage, I would carry their backpacks to their tents for them.
Wow.
And a lot of people were coming up and saying how much they really appreciated, I guess just another runner that's maybe not to brag, but a faster runner saying, well done, good effort. And
well, that little, at that stage where they're physically and mentally out on their feet, someone, it might seem like a very small thing to you.
It did.
But to them, it's like, oh my God, someone cares, and there's someone else that empathises with where I'm at.
So I don't want to take pride in the award, but I do keep the trophy in my house as a reminder for that. What is a small gesture to yourself?
Yeah.
What you might think of as trivial and you almost forgot about, didn't care about it. It means a lot to someone else.
Absolutely.
And
a smile. I mean, I often say that a smile to a stranger when you're walking down the street costs you nothing. It's an attitude. It's a choice.
Yeah.
But the impact it can have, that you suddenly see people smiling back at you. It's like, well,
absolutely, yeah.
And it has an impact. It makes their day better.
Yeah,
mate, that has been awesome. Some really good stuff there. I actually learned a lot about. I'm going to talk to you more about VUCA later.
I'll try and dig up the notes.
That was sensational. Really appreciate you dedicating. I know how busy you are, mate. So to come up and spend a bit of time sharing that with us has been awesome.
It's been fun, yeah.
I know people will get a lot from it, mate. So
any way I can help would be great.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Stewart. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Well, freedom fighters, how good was that? To get a summary of all this investment gold in the show notes, just email me on hello@khgroup.com.au. That's HELLO@khgroup.com.au. Or check us out at www.bushymartin.com.au/getinvested. I look forward to joining you next week for another episode of the Get Invested podcast. So thanks for listening, and as always, dream as if you'll live forever and live as if you'll die tomorrow.